One of my favorite part of every retouching is playing with the contrasts. Once again, it might be very simple to keep the control, or you might complicate that for yourself. Maybe many of you use contouring, maybe many of you try to contour your image using Dodge and Burn, and my words for now, it's I would not recommend you to do this, because there is no need to do such a things, and I will show you how you can improve the contours that exist, even if it's such a simple image like a portrait, and increase the highlights in very simple way, saving a lot of time. There is nothing wrong in using just curves or levels. Right now I'm just going to show you curves to increase your contrasts, and that's it. And you don't actually have to do much more as long as you do nice control. The issue with the curves or levels is it changes your saturation values. So always you need to remember to change blending mode from normal to luminosity. Thanks to that, the color values will not be affected by your settings. But as you can see, it doesn't look that great as we might like to, because it's very easy to lose control on curves. They are very sensitive. So how to keep control on the curves and on your highlights and shadows? I usually create two curve adjustment layers. Let me copy this using Ctrl or Command J. One of them I'm going to call highlights, and the other one is wrong, once again, highlights, and the other one will be shadows. And what I do, I go first to highlights, and I go through image and apply image. And what is happening here, it just shows you how your image looks like, how the shadows and highlights looks like on the image. It merges all of the layer that actually exist. So blending has a multiply to show the merge effect, and hit OK. And you can see the mask right now. I'm going to press Alt or Option, hit on my highlights, and as you can see how the light is represented. It's very soft, but it will be just the right way to improve our highlights. The other way, slightly more improving highlights, would be using this blue channel. But I will show you this at a different occasion, as it's not so clear as sometimes also might destroy your image. So I rather prefer you to show this soft and natural way of doing this. Right now, as we have mask, you need to remember blacks represents what's invisible and whites represents what's visible. So when we pull up the curves, the areas where the white color exists will be brighter, and the black, where exists black over here, will not be affected at all. So what I do, let's make it visible. I just pull up the curve, just like that. And maybe here I'm dragging this down to make sure I'm not affecting the shadows at all. Not necessarily like that, just a little bit. I don't really want to overdo this. And then once again, I'm changing blending mode to luminosity to make sure I'm not affecting saturation value. And it looks really nice to me. As you can see, I improved the highlights. They're very visible, nice right now, and the shadows are not so affected. So how I do the shadows, you can simply make selection on this by pressing Command or Control, and then go here, and then press Command or Control and I. So I already apply inverted effect over here. Let's have a look at the mask option and hit on this, and that's our mask. Need to deselect this option or Alt option, and as you can see, it's very visible. You don't have to do this through the same way, because you could simply go through image, apply image, and you can just choose the box invert here, and you will get exactly the same result as I'm having here. So what I'm doing with my shadows, I'm opening curves, and opposite as before, I'm trying to drag it down just a little bit. This is very important because what you can see, let's compare these layer masks. As you can see highlights, the whites are not so strong over here. So the white effect, the brightening, when we improve this as much as this, it will not burn out your image. It will not be overdone. Though, about shadows, our whites are very strongly visible. So that's why I lower this very carefully to not make my image too dark. Once again, I'm changing blending mode to luminosity. And let's put this into the group, Command or Control and G. And I'm going to call this contrasts. I'm going to double hit and rename to contrasts. So I want to see if my darks are not too dark. Before, after. I believe it might be just a little bit too dark on the shadows. So usually on the shadows, I lower the opacity just a little bit to make sure my image will not be too dark. Have a look, because the effect was already strong. And right now I'm having the image I wanted to have since the beginning about the contrast values. And that was super easy way for you to work with the contrast on your image.